The stock market has changed, and if you try and trade it the same way going forward as like you should have over the past couple weeks, you are in for a rude awakening. So the stock market has really changed right now. In this video, we're going to talk about what caused this change and how to profit off of it going forward. So over 2023 so far, over the past 5 to 6 weeks, we saw a ton of awesome movement, most of it being to the upside, right? And what's awesome to see is, like, if we look at a chart of the S&P 500, we've been in this brutal downtrend ever since 2022, and we've really struggled to break above this key resistance level overhead. And what's nice is that we're finally above that level right now, and that's awesome to see, but we're not in the clear just yet. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are actually a couple of pretty nasty storm clouds overhead, and that's part of what we're going to talk about today. But we're also going to talk about how not to get screwed over going over like trading the market over the next couple weeks, because it's really changing. So basically, if we look at returns year to date for individual stocks in the S&P 500, we can see there's a lot of variance. We can see some stocks, like let's say Pfizer, down 15%. Then we have some stocks like Tesla up 65%. We have another stock like Nvidia up 46%. But then like you could have another stock like, let's say, Procter & Gamble or Coca-Cola down, you could call it 6%. So there's a lot of variance, right? And what's very interesting is some of the stocks that just got pounded the hardest in 2022 are actually having some of the best starts to 2023. You know, Meta got destroyed in 2022, but it's really leading the way in 2023. And you can say the same thing about Meta, Netflix, Nvidia, and a bunch of other stocks like that. Now, the crucial thing to keep in mind is that part of the reason we saw such an explosive run-up to start 2023 is because we had these powerhouse multi-billion-dollar companies like Amazon, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, Netflix, and others that reported earnings and basically single-handedly carried the market on their backs, right? And, you know, while that's awesome to see for like overall market movement, what's also worth noting is that the earnings that we saw weren't all that great. I mean, shit, Apple actually reported, Apple reported their first earnings miss in like 7 years, and guess what the stock does? It blasts higher. So it's like, we're seeing a nice run up right now, but like I said just a couple minutes ago, it's not all sunshine and rainbows just yet. And what's also worth noting is, like, to start 2023, it's not like we're just seeing some of these stocks just pop up in a little wave. Tesla's up 65% this year. That's a pretty big move, and it's, you know, it's not something that you should just ignore. So anytime you see a move of that magnitude, especially with a company as large as Tesla or Apple or Nvidia or Microsoft, there's ebbs and flows with everything in the market. So it's like, it's not like you can just have like a multi-billion-dollar company like Tesla go up 65% without having any pullback at all, or at least a slowdown in that uptrend. Now, as we can see with the stock market overall, not all stocks are created equally. A company like Apple has a much, much larger influence in the S&P 500 than a company like, let's say, Home Depot. You know, it's just not all companies are weighted the same. And these big tech stocks like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, Google, Nvidia, stocks like that have a lot of the biggest weightings in the market. And right now, it's like there's not a ton of like downside momentum, and there's not really a ton of upside momentum as well. So the market's just kind of stuck in a position where it's like, it's not really moving up too much or down too much, and it's just very choppy. And with choppy movement comes hard to trade market conditions. But just because we have choppy movement on the market overall, that doesn't mean that there's no opportunity, because there's actually a lot of opportunity. You just have to find it in a different way than you did to start the year. And that's where I start my first point with, I guess you could say, how markets are, I guess you could say every couple weeks, every couple months, you see large inflows to certain areas of the market. For example, in 2022, especially in the beginning of 2022, everyone was talking about oil stocks, right? And they just rocketed up, you know, as Everyone started buying them. Warren Buffett got into them pretty early. Oil prices started to rise. The war in Ukraine definitely helped oil stocks. And, oil stocks were hot at the time. If you go back to, let's say 2020, there was a ton of hype with electric vehicle companies and basically electric vehicle charging companies and all that good stuff, right? Every couple months, and even at some points in markets, every couple weeks, you have certain industries that just become really, really hot. And everyone's probably wondering, all right, that's awesome, but what's hot right now? Where's the money flowing? So basically what we could see, if we look on Google Trends, I'm sure a lot of you guys have already heard of this by now, but ChatGPT is exploding in popularity. For those of you who don't know what it is, essentially it is an AI that is really cool. So you can just basically ask it anything. Let's say I ask ChatGPT what makes stocks go up and down, and then I submit it. The software will answer you in a very, very interesting way that really hasn't been seen too much before on this scale. And this is just a very, very basic question, but you could have this do, for the most part, anything. It's not perfect with everything, but it has a lot of use cases, and it's been growing in popularity quicker than almost anything else over the past couple of years. And with this surge in popularity with artificial intelligence, that has brought a lot of big money trends and flow to the market overall. So if you're looking for direct exposure to ChatGPT, you're going to want to look at Microsoft. They actually have an ownership stake in OpenAI and ChatGPT, and they've definitely had a nice benefit from ChatGPT's explosion. But Microsoft is not the only company that, is along for this awesome ride with artificial intelligence. There's actually a couple other smaller companies that have been running up in a much more powerful way than basically anything else. If we go back to the heat map, we look at Tesla, that's up 65 or 66% to start the year. If you think that's a lot, you haven't seen some of these artificial intelligence stocks. C3AI, or ticker symbol AI, basically to start the year went from $10 all the way up to highs of 30 or 31, I should say. So that's a lot of crazy movement, and this is just to name one stock. There's other stocks out there like BBAI, which have also had an amazing start to the year. BBAI started the year around 72 cents, and right now it's lingering right around $5.50. And there's a lot of other ones out there like SOUN that's been running up in a pretty big way, but these are just a couple stocks. What's very interesting is when you have, something as influential as artificial intelligence, there's a lot of companies that have a lot to gain from that. And a lot of these companies are some of the bigger tech stocks like Google, Nvidia, Baidu, Apple, stuff like that. And basically what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of news, anything related to artificial intelligence, bring in a ton of buying pressure. For example, we could see that Baidu basically announced their Ernie bot, where basically it's going to be like a competitor to ChatGPT, right? And when this news released, it had an amazing influence on Baidu's stock. The stock just popped up in a very influential way, and it's up 11% today, So right now we're in a market where it's not as much dictated by, let's say earnings as it was over the past couple of weeks. It's more dictated by, news right now. And a lot of that news has been, directly, I guess you could say, in line with artificial intelligence. And, even as another example, we actually had Google announce their, I guess you could say, response to ChatGPT with their Bard bot, or Bard AI, you can say. And, that will be good for Google. But the main thing to know is that if you treat the market the same way that you should have treated the market, over the past couple weeks, and you do that going forward, it's not going to be good for you. You're in for a rude awakening, because we don't have that same level of earnings from these major tech stocks. The FOMC event's over, and it's just a different market right now. A lot of the big movement is attributed to specific stocks rather than the overall market. And another thing to keep in mind is it doesn't just have to be artificial intelligence news. Even if we look at a prime example with Zoom stock, they had news come out in the middle of the day where they basically announced plans to lay off 1,300 employees, aka 15% of their workforce. And then on top of that, the CEO is actually taking a pretty decent pay cut. The CEO is actually going to, you can see right here, reduce his own salary for the coming fiscal year by 98%. And he's also going to you know, I don't want to say give away, but he's not going to take his corporate bonus, you know? So that's good for the stock and it brings in confidence. But it's these types of events that are actually moving the market. Like you can see, Zoom had a hell of a move intraday, and that is awesome to see. That's where the momentum's flowing. AI had a hell of a move over the past couple weeks. Microsoft has been moving in a good way. Baidu has been moving in a good way. But if you're just looking to trade, let's say the S&P 500, you know, every now and then you can see some decent moves, but over like the past couple days, it has been quite choppy. So going forward, I think it would be a lot smarter of a decision for my short-term traders out there to see where the momentum's flowing, see where the money's flowing, and capitalize off of it like that. I'll tell you right now, a lot of the money is being, I guess you could say, flowing into just like trending topics, whether it be artificial intelligence stuff or, you know, even breaking news like the Zoom example. So definitely keep that in mind. There's still a lot of opportunity right now in the market. You just have to trade it in a little bit of a different way than you would have over the past couple weeks. So I hope this video helped you. If it did, make sure to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll see my videos more often. Besides that, let's have an amazing rest of the week.